The top 5 deadliest criminals in the UK, that were told they will die in prison. Every murderer knows that they may face life behind bars, if they are tried and convicted. These are the top 5 deadliest criminals that have been told that they will never taste freedom again. Number 5. Stephen Wright, also known as the Suffolk Strangler and the Ipswich Ripper. Between October 30 and December 10, 2006, the Suffolk Strangler murdered 5 sex workers in Ipswich. Forensic evidence led to his arrest on December 19, 2006. He was found guilty of all 5 murders on February 21, 2008. The following day, the Ipswich Ripper was sentenced to life imprisonment, and the judge recommended he never be released. Number 4. Rose West, and her House of Horrors. West is now an inmate at HMP Low Newton in Durham, after being convicted in 1995 of 10 murders. Her husband, Fred, who committed suicide in prison while awaiting trial, is believed to have collaborated with her in the torture and murder of at least 9 young women between 1973 and 1987. Also, Rose was said to have murdered her 8-year-old stepdaughter, Charmaine, in 1971. The majority of these murders took place at the couple's home in Gloucester, dubbed the House of Horrors. After the police found human remains and apparent signs of torture in their home, Rose West, along with husband Fred, were arrested in February 1994. Rose denied any allegations of murderous activities, but the circumstantial evidence that mounted against the couple in 1994 was considered sufficient enough to prosecute her for the 10 murders, those of the young women, whose bodies were found at their residence on Cromwell Street, and those of Charmaine West.
As the 7 verdicts were delivered, anyone at Winchester Crown Court who was hoping for a reaction from Mrs. West was disappointed. There was no sign of emotion, no sign of contrition, as the jury slowly and methodically delivered the 7 guilty verdicts which placed Mrs. West high in the league of the most horrific mass killers.
Number 3. Ian Brady, the Moors Murders. Ian Brady was jailed in 1966 for the murders of 5 children, aged between 10 and 17, between 1963 and 1965, with girlfriend, Myra Hindley. 3 of their victims were buried on the Manchester moors, while another was discovered at Brady's home. The remains of 12-year-old Keith Bennett have never been found. Details of their crimes, along with the complete lack of remorse they both showed during the trial, shocked Britain. A 13-minute audio tape of 10-year-old victim, Leslie Ann Downey's ordeal was played in court. Hindley was sent to Holloway Prison to serve 2 life sentences, where she remained until she died in 2002. Brady appeared again in court, having been on hunger strike for 13 years in Broadmoor Hospital, in a bid to be sent back to prison. He died aged 79 in 2017. Number 2. John Childs, also known as Bruce Childs, a contract killer. Contract killer, John Childs, murdered 6 people, including a boy of 10, then cut up their bodies and burnt them in his fireplace. He chose the grisly way of getting rid of the bodies after first trying to mince them up and flush them down the toilet at his London flat. Childs was a professional criminal as well as a killer, but ignored a gangland tradition of never hurting women or children, by shooting little Terry Brett alongside his father, George Brett, in one of his contract killings. The murderer, who was jailed in 1980, testified against two alleged accomplices, Terry Pinfold and Harry McInerney, who were also sentenced to life. Pinfold and McInerney were both acquitted and released in 2003, after the courts decided that Childs is a pathological liar. Number 1, John Cooper, the game show serial killer. Laborer John Cooper evaded justice for more than 20 years after he murdered brother and sister, Richard and Helen Thomas in 1985, an Oxfordshire couple, Peter and Gwenda Dixon, in 1989. Cooper was convicted of separate charges of rape, sexual assault, and attempted robbery. Cooper was convicted for the rape of a 16-year-old girl and a sexual assault on a 15-year-old girl, both carried out at gunpoint, in March 1996. He was given 4 life sentences for each of the murders and was jailed in 2011. In September that same year, Cooper launched an appeal against his convictions. His appeal was rejected in November 2012. He has no possibility of parole. There are fewer than 50 people who have been told that they will die in jail. But sometimes, the crime is so horrific that the law says that the killer can never be released. These are the real-lifers.